This is a video tutorial for the ELEGOO Smart Robot Car version 4. This kit contains 4 separate boxes. The box labeled with camera contains 4 tires, 4 motors, remote control, and 2 USB cables. The smallest box contains our Uno, several modules as you can see here, and an I/O expansion board. The large flat box contains 2 pieces for the bot's chassis. I'll be following the provided assembly tutorial. You may use it to supplement this video. First thing I'll be assembling is the motor. We will need this bag of parts labeled 1 for motor, along with this bag of motors. In order to assemble each motor, take the motor along with one of these plates from the bag. Note the orientation of the power cable. Placing the plate over these screw holes, line it up, and go ahead and insert one of the screws in the bag. These are going to be the longer screws, the 30mm long ones, as opposed to the shorter 10mm long screws. Each of these screws will be inserted into this hole. Come through here with a nut secured on this side here. Next, each motor will be affixed to the bottom chassis plate. Make sure you use the correct plate. The incorrect plate has this rectangular cutout right here, and in our kit, it had a label A on it also. The correct plate had no label, and it looks like this. Here's the layout of the motors on the plate. Make note of the way that each of our motors are oriented on this plate. And keep in mind that each of these sides are mirrored of each other. Make sure that the drive wheels go toward the center of the chassis, as you can see here. A few notes for the assembly of these motors. Make sure they're as straight as possible. Also, don't tighten either screw until they're both threaded. Also note, if the motor appears to be assembled incorrectly, just flip it over. This may sound kind of trivial, but I made this mistake while assembling the bot. Once all motors are attached to the plate, check each motor for any play. Tighten and align as necessary. Make sure that they're parallel to the edge. Next, we'll attach the line tracking module. We'll use 4 of each nut, bolt, and spacer contained in this screw bag number 2. The line tracking module itself will also be used, which looks like this. Outside of this package, you can see R, M, and L. This is how it looks. The line tracking module goes toward the front of this chassis, where these 4 screw holes are located. It'll go on the opposite side of the motors, and R, M, and L will be facing the front of the chassis. We'll orient these screws with the plastic spacers directly on the plate, and then the module will sit on these 4 spacers. The screws come in from the top, this nut's going on top. I went ahead and used a 5.5mm socket to ensure all these bolts are tight in order to hold them down. You may also want to use pliers or a crescent wrench, and of course use the provided hex on the other side of the bolt. Next, screw bag 3 will be used. We'll have these 2 countersunk Phillips head screws along with this copper pillar. The GY521 module will be used, which looks like this right here. This module will be attached to the I/O expansion board, which is right here. Now the packaging looks like this. You can see Smart Car Shield written at the bottom, along with the model number here. The back looks like this. The GY521 module will go right near this connector here, next to the model number. It will plug in just like this. The support will go right aligned with these screw holes here. And the countersunk screw, one will screw in from the bottom, one will screw in from the top. Assembled, the board will look like this on the expansion slot, with a countersunk screw on either side of this copper support. While it's not necessary because it doesn't need to be super tight, you may benefit by using a pair of pliers rather, to hold the support down during assembly. Next, we'll be returning to screw bag number 2, using every piece in here except for one of each. We will need the top plate, which has a rectangular cutout in it, along with the Uno board, which looks like this. The Uno will align with the pre-drilled screw holes at the top of the deck, like so. With the Uno properly affixed to the top plate, it will look something like this. And the expansion board that we briefly assembled earlier will go on top of the Uno. Make sure that you align the I/O pins properly, and it just presses on like so. Don't be afraid to put a little bit of pressure on it too. Next, we'll be attaching the battery pack. We're going to use screws from screw bag number 3. You'll need these two 12mm screws along with their corresponding nuts. They're the more medium screws in the pack. The battery pack will go on the board with the power cable facing to the left as seen in the orientation filmed here. A little bit of information about this battery pack here. As you can see on this side, we have our charging port right here, which is micro USB, which is provided. Toward the rear of the pack here, we have an on-off switch along with an indicator LED. This will light green when charging and will turn off once fully charged. On the other side, of course, we have the power leads. Next, we will be using screws from bag 5 to assemble our camera module. Out of bag 5, we will need 4 of these smaller Phillips head screws, along with these 2 copper pillars. The camera module looks like this. Make sure that you remove the protective film on the front of the lens before you use the bot. It attaches to the bracket like so. Also be sure that you remove the protective film from the bracket itself before attaching the module. With the copper pillars attached to this plastic board here, the camera module will simply be placed over top of it like this. Fully assembled, the camera module will look like this, with a ribbon cable attached at the bottom. Make sure you're using a 4-pin ribbon cable from the little baggie containing the other ribbon cables. Next we will be assembling the ultrasonic sensor. These are the pieces we're going to be starting with, along with bag number 4. We're going to be using one of the more medium-sized screws in the kit, along with the corresponding washer. Don't worry, there's only one screw that will fit into the pieces we'll be assembling, along with this washer. Then we'll be using the smallest screws in the kit, along with these equally small corresponding black nuts. This plastic bracket attaches to the servo motor. Note how these front spacers here are aligned compared to the 3 bolt holes at the bottom. 2 bolts go right here, which secure this plastic plate to the servo motor itself. And the ultrasonic sensor can be affixed to the bracket like so. There you go. Fully assembled, the sensor looks like this, with 2 screws at the bottom of the ultrasonic module. At the top of the module, the camera module will be affixed. These pillars, along with the screws and washer and nut rather affixing it, are out of bag number 5 for the camera module. Using the 3 large screws and their nuts from bag number 4, the ultrasonic sensor and camera module can be attached to the front of the chassis, as you can see right here. Now both plates will be sandwiched together using screws and standoffs from bag number 6. At each screw hole, all 6 around the corners, you will have one of these standoffs sticking up like so, with the bolt at the bottom. Now that all the pillars are properly attached, we can affix the top deck like so, inserting each screw in its corresponding hole. It will look like this when completed. Both plates put together look like this. Keep in mind that the camera and ultrasonic module are directly above the line tracking module. We can now begin wiring. This 4-pin connector that is connected to the ultrasonic sensor can be plugged into the I/O expansion board and onto this middle connector right here, like so. Then the camera can be connected to this front connector rather, labeled Buart. Here is the cable from the servo, which can be snaked up through this hole, as you see here. We can then go ahead and connect it to these 3 pins right here, labeled Servo 1. Make sure to note the orientation of this cable. The yellow wire goes toward this module here, like so. Now each motor can be connected. Notice how there's left and right pins for left and right motors. Note which motor each cable comes from. This is from the front right motor, so we can connect it to either connection labeled right. Left motors can be connected to either left. Front and rear does not matter in this case, only this left or right. Connected like so. This 5-pin cable right here must be connected to the line tracking module at the bottom of the bot, like so. You can then go ahead and feed it up through these 2 holes in the middle to come out the top. Once through the 2 holes, we can connect it to this rear connector on the I/O expansion board, the only one that can support a 5-pin connector. Next, we'll be using the rest of these 4 screws from screw pack number 3 to attach each of the wheels to the bot. Each wheel will be attached to this stub on each motor. Go ahead and place it, turn a little bit until it slots into the groove. There we go. And go ahead and screw down the screw to ensure each wheel stays on. Do that for the rest of the wheels. Alright, now that all 4 wheels are attached, last thing we have to do is attach the battery pack, which is attached right here to the board. And now, it is complete. If you have any questions about the assembly of this bot, please feel free to either comment on this video or contact the SUNY Oswego Electrical and Computer Engineering Department with more questions. Thank you, and we hope to see you soon.